see here that these are the remains of the wall. This was a time of great social upheaval across Scandinavia. Let's go. Good morning everyone, and welcome back to Northern Journeys. I'm here in beautiful Siljan in Telemark County, and I'm looking out across this windy lake of Gorningen, these amazing ridge lines and this little promontory that sticks into the lake. This promontory used to be an Iron Age hill fort, so we're going to pay this specific hill fort a visit, try and look for traces of the actual fort. And we're also going to discuss why there's some 200 to 300, maybe more, hill forts in Norway and hundreds of more in Scandinavia. Without further ado, let's go. The water levels of the lake are quite low now, so I can actually just go along here instead of going through the woods. One of the very interesting finds from the Iron Age around here is one of Norway's first boats that we have physical proof of. It's a dugout canoe that was found only just a couple of 100 meters down from here. Now, as you walk around here, you'll see a bit obscure warning signs, but yeah, here the path ends. And I have to climb up onto the wood path. The autumn is really here now. It's cold, it's windy. The trees become these sort of fireworks of color, red and yellow. So there's a warning here, warning of rocks might be falling down this rather steep cliff, but no journey without an element of risk, right? Let's go. I made it. So many warnings here. You'd think people didn't know to take care of themselves. Now we're going to look for the signs of the wall that they built to make this fort. But I'm going to let you guys look for it as I walk. Now it's sloping up, and look at that. How does it look in here? Could these be the first signs of the wall? Not sure. I think the rocks are too big. Humans coming here would have seen the natural advantages of making something in addition to the sort of inherent defensive capabilities that such a place had. Now it's sloping up even more, and here we are at the thinnest point of this half island. Right, put the hood on because bugs are still out. We're standing at the most narrowest part of this promontory, this half island, and I can see here that these are the remains of a wall that would have stretched across this piece of land. What's fascinating is you can see it's a really thick wall. It's probably like 1.5 meters. The foundations of this wall just carries on straight across until there's a very steep drop. There don't appear to have been used any sort of mortar or things between the rocks. It's really just rocks laid upon each other. Possibly this has been augmented by wooden palisades at some point, but that wood has long since rotted away. Right, I'm inside the fort. This is a natural elevation in the landscape. I'm looking out across the lake on all sides almost, and if you disregard the vegetation, the pine trees that probably wouldn't have been here, you have a perfect vantage point to look out across this whole valley, this whole stretch of valley. Apart from it just being a very nice spot to camp, I just don't see much that would indicate houses or additional walls. Just kind of like little rocks here and there, which leads me to the point of discussion for today. Were hill forts military installations? Because there seems to be two trains of thoughts. The first one is obviously the military interpretation. They're easily defended. They're often situated on a promontory, on a half island or a hilltop that has easily defensible access. But if these were military complexes, where are the weapon finds? There's one weapon find here. I looked on the map about a couple of 100 meters away from here, just a spear. But in terms of other things you'd expect from a military fort, very little. Was there something else to these places? In Sweden, they have found signs of what means more sort of ritual feasting, meaning that they're not finding the typical things that you'd associate with a military fort. Plus that, there's also accounts of antique authors explaining what the Celts were doing in these hill forts. For instance, Caesar describes these hill forts during his campaign in Gaul, the Oppidum or the Oppida. They say that these hill forts were primarily places for gathering people, for kings to meet and to decide and maybe possibly engage in ritual feasting, drinking, sort of more of a place of symbolic power as opposed to a place of military strategic value. It's a bit of a stretch to draw a line between the continental hill forts and the hill forts in Norway and Sweden and possibly Denmark, but possibly the soldiers, mercenaries of the Roman and of the Germanic armies saw these oppida, these hill forts, and took that tradition back home and started building them here. There's a path going down to the lake here. Let's see if you can get all the way down. Yeah, this is really steep. Maybe this would be an access point for boats, which we have evidence of. Nice. So here I can get down in a plateau by the water and I can look out across the lake properly. Now I'm going to fire up my drone, which I brought with me today, to give you more of a clear view of the actual position of this promontory in the landscape as opposed to the taller hill and the lake around it. So let's go. Right, I hope you enjoyed that little drone sequence there. It was really great for me to get into the air and actually see this place from a high position in the landscape, because you see how small it is compared to the hill to the east of it, and that if you were to put a fort here, any attackers would be able to get up onto that hill and fire, potentially fire arrows right down into this fort. So the military interpretation seems less likely. At the same time, you just see what a unique position this promontory has in this lake. This fort, the building of this wall, really, has been dated to the end of the migrations period. And that makes it a late addition to hundreds of hill forts that were being constructed over you know, a couple of hundred years. That has led the scholars and the archaeologists to speculate that this was a time of great social upheaval across Scandinavia, possibly violent, but there is an alternative view. This could be the result of a new religion or an intensified use of religion coming to Scandinavia. This place could possibly be compared to not a traditional castle or a fort, but maybe it's more of a sort of monastery where it had a primary religious function, but it also had walls in case of intruders, invaders. Across Norway, there are a series of legends or myths related to these places. One of them is that these hill forts have actually been sort of robber castles used by local bandits. Over time, these places take on a character completely of their own, independent of what they've been actually in use for. Regardless if you knew about the prehistory of this half island, it's just amazing coming out there and for just seeing the whole valley. And yeah, I hope to make more excursions like this. Visiting hill forts is a really great way to get out into nature and go for trips. On that topic, I really enjoy reading all your comments and getting emails and your suggestions for trips. I try and take into account all of it. With that, thank you for all the thoughts and all the support. Until next time, goodbye, farvel, adieu.